Hey guys, welcome back to OC Outdoorsman. Today I'm fishing with Caesar. You can see him right there in his brand new Hobie Outback. We're in Newport Beach, California, preparing to fish the Kelp Beds. Today we'll be targeting California sheephead, so shrimp will be our primary bait. No sardines or anchovies this morning. Maybe a few artificials. That's it. So here we are at the Kelp Beds. I throw out a shrimp, and as soon as it hits bottom, it gets inhaled by this baby sculpin. You need to be really careful around these fish. The spines there on his dorsal fin are toxic, and you get poked, it's really painful. This guy put up a decent fight. Again, I'm using shrimp, and it gets inhaled as soon as it hits bottom. A decent whitefish. They make great ceviche, so I ended up keeping this one. I saw a school of fish surrounding my kayak, so I decided to make bait. Later in the video, I'll show you how I caught this mackerel and some other fish. So here I've switched back to shrimp, and sheephead, their bite is really subtle, so when you cast out a shrimp and it hits bottom, you really have to pay attention. As soon as you feel the nibbles, set that hook. And you can see here I caught one that's kind of in transition from female to male, but it's a decent sized fish. After measurement, this guy came close to 14 inches. In California, you can keep anything 12 inches or bigger. And here's an example of a fish that you can't keep. This one was well under 12 inches, so I released him right away. I'm using 20-pound test tied to a 2/0 circle hook and a 1-ounce egg sinker. There are a lot of mackerel and other aggressive fish in this kelp bed, so the 1-ounce egg sinker gets the bait down quickly. Otherwise, with lighter sinkers, the mackerel will just inhale your shrimp. So that's one solution. And here you'll see our strategy is working. We're catching the target species. This is another sheephead that you're seeing here. Now I'm going to try something different. You're going to see this is a Carolina rig setup. Lighter sinker, smaller hook, and now I'm using crappie bites. I'm going to target some of the bait fish since there's so many swimming around the kayak. And this is great because the dough bait that you're seeing here, they're really small and they stick to the hook quite well. I'm going to show you that by just putting a little bit of crappie bait there. If you're low on bait, if you need live bait, drop that in. And here you'll see I've caught, this is not a mackerel. If you can identify this fish, there's a ton of them swimming around this kelp bed. Please comment below. I'm really curious. I see them all the time. So here I've decided to move to a different spot of the kelp forest. You can see I have the Mirage Drive fins flushed against the hull of my kayak. I've already pulled up my rudder because the kelp is so thick. It's actually faster, more efficient to maneuver around using your paddles. So it's a great way to get around thick foliage like this. So once I find a spot, you'll see that I've crafted these homemade alligator clips or kelp clips. It's just a piece of paracord tied to a pair of alligator clips. This helps you to anchor down or stay in place without having to throw an anchor out. In this thick kelp, you'll lose anchors really easily. So as you can see here, this clip or kelp clip works quite well. Just clip onto some of that surface kelp and you're good to go. So the first thing I catch in this section, and this was a nice surprise, was a sand bass. You'll often catch calicos and sand bass in the kelp forest using shrimp, although they prefer other types of bait like squid or live sardines. You'll catch these guys too using shrimp. So this is the first one caught in the new spot. Just gonna let him go. They need to be at least 14 inches to keep in California. And here again is another sheephead in transition. All California sheepheads start off as females, and at some point in their life, they'll become males and much larger. But these pinkish fish are still pretty much female. When you start seeing black in their head and body, they're transitioning into a male sheephead. This next fish I catch is interesting. Again, I'm using shrimp as bait, but as soon as this one hits bottom, a sculpin inhales it. Now keep in mind, sculpin have to be 10 inches to keep. That's the size limit. And there's no more than 5 that you can have in your bag at any time. This is obviously undersized, but remember, their spines are toxic. So I always just use my pliers and shake them off the hook just to be safe. Again, with shrimp, you'll often catch other species of fish, and here's another whitefish. Again, they make for some really good ceviche, so that's an ocean whitefish. The conditions were so calm today. You could see that that's Caesar in the background standing on his yak. These Outbacks are really stable, and on days like this, you could just stand on it, cast out artificials. Really great, stable kayak. The water temperature was close to the mid 60s. It averaged around 64 degrees, and as you can see, I sped up the footage here because I caught a couple more California sheephead here. One was female, one was in transition. So just speeding up the footage, you'll see. Always a good idea to measure, and I pretty much released everything I caught today. So the sun finally decides to come out, but it was a productive morning. Caught a ton of fish, released everything, kept only 4 from today, maybe 2 of the California sheephead, a couple of the whitefish. Everything else was released. So here I'm heading back into the harbor, and you can see in the background Corona del Mar. But it was pretty calm for the most part. Starting to get a little choppy, but it's pretty calm overall. Great day to be on the water. Here I'm further inside of the harbor. You can see the bait barge there to my left. Now if you like to use, or if you're targeting bass, it's a good idea to get live bait here, right? Anchovies, sardines, and in that kelp forest you'll catch some of the bigger bass using live bait. But our target fish today was the California sheephead, and we caught a bunch of those today. Alright, let's speed things up as I approach the landing point. So pulling up the rudder, the Mirage drive, and now I'm going to paddle back in. This is a great launch point, really flat, no waves, quite calm. But now the fun begins, as I like to say. Hauling everything back to the truck. All this gear. So I like to start by taking in my fishing rods. So at this point I'm just going to head back, bring the truck closer to the beach, and start the unloading process. You might be wondering, why don't I just haul everything back to my truck within the yak? Well, first of all, a lot of things that you're seeing me take right now are loose items. You know, to get the cart underneath the kayak, you need to flip it on its side. So here you'll see me taking out the bait tank and the other items. So once everything is unloaded, I can then flip the kayak on its side and plug in the wheels into the scupper holes, which I'm doing right here. Caesar had a pretty good day on the water as well. Here he's taking out his largest sheephead. You can see it's a mature bull. It's close to 17-18 inches, so decent sized fish. So that was our trip. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe, and please do like this video. Thanks everyone.